Sam for Conscious Life News, and I am here at Bhakti Fest 2014, and I am very honored to be here today with Krishna Das. Welcome, Krishna.
Hello, how are you?
And for you that don't know, which I'd be surprised, Krishna Das is known as the rock star of yoga. He's a kirtan singer. And could you just, for our audience, just break down a little bit of, very briefly, what kirtan is?
Kirtan is a chanting practice. It's a spiritual practice, a meditational practice, but it involves singing and chanting. And what we chant, you know, in India they call what we chant, they call the names of God. But really what we're talking about is it's a way of turning towards your own inner heart, your deepest reality, the deepest center. And of course in India they say that that's what and where God is, but we don't need to worry about that. The main thing is to try to turn within and calm the mind and develop a better quality to our daily life, you know, make us better human beings, people who with relationships that really bring what we want them to bring. You know, everybody wants the same thing, but we have bad aim.
What is that one thing that everybody wants?
Everybody wants not just love, but wants to be able to love and to have their love accepted and to be accepted and to be loved. And they say in the East that real love, unconditional love, it doesn't come from the outside. It comes from, it is our true nature.
So that love that we're searching for in life comes from within, and kirtan can play a very important role in bringing that out. Would
Absolutely,
that be a good way to put it?
You know, it's like they always tell the story of the musk deer that has this incredible smell around him, this beautiful perfume, and he runs around looking for it everywhere, but it's in his own belly button. And it's really like that. Everywhere we look, we're looking for affection, or we're looking for acceptance. We want our love to be accepted, and we want to be loved in return. But it's very difficult to find that in the outside world. It's impossible, actually. You can have friendship with people, good friendship, deep friendships, supportive friendships, but love doesn't come from the outside.
And now this is, now a lot of people, I think, when they hear something like that and they try and sit with themselves, and it's very difficult.
Sure.
And, you know,
it's like when you look in the mirror and all you see is your zits, you know?
Yeah, right?
Yeah, it's like,
Let me look somewhere else. Now, even though it's not on the outside, when we do look to the world outside, because it's hard not to look outside because we function in this outside world.
Yeah.
So when we do look to the outside, there's such a vast amount of stimuli and people and teachers and messages and so on. So when we are engaging with the outside world, and we have all these different options of what we can engage in, who we can engage in, and so on. And I think even though it lies at our core, that's when the role of gurus and spiritual teachers can come into place. Because it's, in a sense, it's looking out, but it's only for them to lead and guide us back within ourselves. So could you talk a little bit about...
Yeah. You know, this is a real big question. First of all, there's a big difference between teachers and gurus.
Could you, before you go on, could you just separate the two for us?
I will, yeah. A guru is somebody who is realized, who has become the truth. They're no longer searching. There's no longer any kind of personal agenda of any kind. They have completely submerged themselves in love and truth and reality. You don't really meet a lot of those. But teachers are those of us who have been around a lot, have studied a lot, have met a lot of teachers, maybe even met a guru, who are now, as part of their own practice, sharing the methods that they learned to quiet the mind and open the heart and become a good human being. And so I always say, go out there, go around, meet as many teachers as you can, listen to all the methods that they talk about. Really, really, you know, make an effort to find something that works for you. But guru is something else. You know, People run around all the time, all day, in and out, in and out. They never look up at the sun. Without the sun, none of this exists. That's the Guru. The Guru is like that. The sun shines on everyone and everything unconditionally. It shines on miserable people, good people, murderers, thieves, saints, everybody, equally, exactly equally. That's what a Guru is. That's because a Guru is someone who's become that, the Son of Love, which is God.
And do you believe every one of us here in physical form has the potential to...
It's not even a question.
Yeah.
We wouldn't, that's why we're here. The fact that we don't recognize that is just part of our delusion. But that's, once the delusion level starts to calm down, you see that everybody wants the same thing. And the same thing is looking out at each one's eyes. The same thing. The same consciousness is looking out at everyone's eyes. But we don't see that seer, you know? We only see the stuff. So it's a question of finding a practice that kind of gradually frees you of your being glued to the stuff and allows you to kind of just relax into yourself a little bit.
Because I think honestly in this day and age as well, even though it's a very good thing that consciousness is becoming more and spirituality, people are becoming more aware of this, and especially in the Western world, it can be overwhelming in the sense that there is so much out there. There's so many people who are teaching so many things. There are so many different paths. So for your personal journey, I know you spent time with Ramdas and then you were with Baba.
Neem Karoli Baba.
Yeah, could you tell us a little bit about that experience? Was that the transitional point for you? Would you say, when did your life, if there was a time where it flipped more into you actually like really living in that space of what you know you're here
That'll
to
be
do?
tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, no, I'm working on it just like everybody else, you know. You know, I think there were a few times in my life where I kind of got bumped in, you might say, a couple of notches. And the first time was when I met Ramdas. I didn't know hardly anything about him, only that he'd been to India and come back. I went to meet him. I walked into the room where he was sitting, and without a word being spoken. I was 21. I was crazy. I didn't know what I was doing. The minute I walked into that room, I knew that whatever it was I was looking for was real. It was real. It existed. It was in the world. You could find it. That's like, whoa, you know? That made a real change in my life. I got close to Ramdas, and then I wound up going to India to be with his guru, who was my guru. And I stayed there until he sent me home to America a couple of years later.
Go home now.
Yeah, go home, get out, like that.
And I believe there was like where you had started doing kirtan, and when you came back, that was going to be your practice and what you were going to share with the USA and the Western world. And would you speak a little bit on that with tying in life purpose? Because I think just there's this general thing in the air with a lot of people of, I want to do something more meaningful, I want to do this. Now it's beautiful how, you know, you can clearly see you're doing your life's work. For those people who are still trying to discover that, do you have anything you can impart on that?
You know, everybody has a different role to play. You have to find out who you are, not who anybody else is. There's no model out there that fits everybody. I'm not singing. I'm like somebody who's been floating out in the ocean for like 30 years and is drowning. I'm up to here. Kirtan is what keeps me up here like this, you know. I stop singing, I'm gone. And that's why it works for me, because it's like breathing. You know, it's not an option. I'm not trying to do anything for anybody else. I am aware that people get a lot from it, and that it helps people in so many ways. And that's phenomenal. I have no question, it's so great. But
It's not the reason that
I know where that help comes from.
Yeah.
That's the guru. You know, I'm just like an old rusty pipe, you know, and he picks me up, makes beautiful music with it, and then just throws it down again.
And it's probably that humble attitude that allows such beautiful work to come through you.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is when we're doing what we're meant to be doing. It's something's working through us rather than us doing a something.
That's a very good way of looking at it, and it is true. But you know, there's so many different models for understanding this stuff. You know, because But anyway, yeah, but that's very accurate as far as that goes.
Yeah.
It's
So I know you do a lot of the kirtan you use is from the Hindu traditions, and you're using the names that are coming through are Ganesh and Krishna and Ram and Lakshman.
I also do stuff from Buddhist tradition.
Okay.
I've studied a lot of Tibetan Buddhism, and I've done a lot of Buddhist meditation over the years. I met with a lot of lamas and rinpoches.
So do you have any insights along, from experiencing that, and growing up as a Jew, and then being exposed to Hinduism?
I was as Jewish as the Pope. I was about as Jewish as the Pope.
But there's all these containers and labels and religions and so on, and there's different paths. But I think with the music, the beauty of the music, and you're actually the CD. I would recommend you to newcomers to this because it's so catchy. I always have it on in the background, and I love it. But it's very much. So I know you've done a gospel song as well, and like you said, you do the Buddhist and the Hinduism. So it transcends religion, is what I'm trying to get to, the praise music. So could you speak a little bit about transcending religion through music?
Well, people take religion very seriously, and they get angry at you if you don't. My guru loved everyone equally. He had devotees who were Hindus, he had devotees who were Buddhists, he had devotees who were Muslim, Sikhs, Jains, everyone. He had devotees from all the different religions. Because religions are actually paths to that goal. And if it's working for you, fine. A lot of times the problem is that religion has ceased to offer methods to find, happiness. And it's just become something about blind faith, and that creates a lot of problems. Because if somebody, then your faith is always tenuous, and if somebody doesn't believe what you do, they're your enemy. So this isn't about blind faith, this is about experience. You do this is going to happen. If you stop worrying, you'll be happy. How do you stop worrying? Calm your mind. How do you calm your mind? You could sing a little bit. It's not a mystery.
So these different, I would say, faces of God, names of God that you do chant about, do you have any favorites? Do you want to discuss a couple of what energies they carry? Or
I've lived in India my whole life, and I never paid any attention to that.
Oh, interesting.
Really, I never paid. They're all the same to me.
Beautiful. Okay.
I once asked my Indian father, who was a great yogi, and he'd been with our guru for 40 years, and I said, Baba, who is greater, Vishnu or Shiva? He said, how can you compare infinites?
Oh, beautifully said, yeah.
These things are so far beyond our limited ability to understand. It's better to find out. I think you should deal with what we see, what we know, which is our own bullshit.
Yeah.
Because that's where all the pain comes from, our own nonsense. Our own fears, our own shame, our own guilt, our own selfishness, our own manipulating people for our own benefit, and our own stuff. If we could get over that, lighten that load up a little bit, we'd be a lot happier, and life would look very different.
Now, on those topics, there is this positive law of attraction, think positive stuff going on, and
I don't think positive.
No, I'm about to cover this with you because a lot of people, when their own shit comes up, basically, then they just want to focus in on something positive, and I believe that's suppressing stuff. So there's certain things that people do when their own crap comes up. We project it outside.
Yeah.
We do all types of stuff with it. When your own crap comes up for you, as Krishna does, what do you do? Because you at least it's beautiful to hear you own it, saying that we have crap. I'm still doing what I do.
Well, I just mope around until it passes. I do the best I can. I keep doing my practices. I don't stop. I keep offering it up. But when you offer something, you have to let go of it at the same time. So that's not the easy part. I just keep doing the best of my stuff, and everything changes. people try, when difficult stuff arises, they try to find something else to latch onto. Because there's a kind of a fear that this is going to be too much for me to deal with. This one's going to kill me, right? This is too heavy. I don't want to deal with this. So they go out and get drunk or get laid or get this or that. Do something else to take their mind off of what's going on. You know, so that's a survival technique. And it might work temporarily, but the problem is that it doesn't really work. So that's why they say you should try to start doing some kind of spiritual practice and do it a little bit every day, no matter how you feel. Because you need to develop that strength, that when the really difficult stuff comes, it's not going to destroy you completely. And it comes to everybody, difficult stuff. And death comes to everybody. There's no escape. So if we really, the more we know that in our being, the more precious life becomes. And the more we want to live in a good way, and the more we want to have more, get more out of life, get more joy out of life, and more out of our relationships, and more out of everything. It's not a negative thing to think about death. It actually makes life more precious, you know, and more alive. You know, Maharaji said something. He said, people come already taught by God. And it's an interesting concept. Really, what people just need to listen to themselves. The whole thing is to learn to trust yourself, learn to listen to your intuition, listen to pay attention to yourself, and not see yourself through others' eyes all the time. See what you want, who you are, what works for you. That's the whole path, to listen to yourself. You're not going to find God out there.
Yeah.
You're only going to find it in there. And the only thing in the way is your own nonsense. So the whole thing is to learn to listen to yourself.
So this is interesting, because I was going to ask you was about balancing the seen and the unseen world. So in a way you kind of...
I don't see the unseen, so I don't know what to balance.
But in a way you kind of answered it, because I think it's quite, you quite nailed it, because all the stuff that's going on is really just stripping away our own stuff. So what is our God-given birthright, who we really are, can actually shine. And then we would know what we need to do, where we need to go, who we need to speak to, how we need, what we want to embody.
You know, there's absolutely, and you know, there's any religion that's based on blind faith. Also, the other side of blind faith is not looking inside. These religions believe the devil is inside, so meditation is evil. Actually, that's a belief.
Oh wow, I never heard of meditation being evil.
Yeah, and because the devil will get you if you try to calm your mind. You gotta praise the Lord this way, sing to the Lord this way, do this, do that, all outside. What can come from that? Not much. Maybe a little temporary calmness, maybe a sense of community, which gives you some sense of safety or something, but no real anything can come from that.
And quite, you know, I think the one universal thing we can maybe say then is to quieten the mind so we can hear our own truth. Maybe what people are looking for, and there's just very many different paths to it. So it's the getting into that quiet space within yourself. Now, what's your practice look like? What does your day look like where you are? I know, I have on weeks, off weeks. People think it's like setting goal forever. It's not, it varies.
Oh,
but
Jesus.
what do you aim for in your day to live your practice?
Well, there's certain practices I do every day. And I know from knowing myself that if I don't get them done early in the day, it's going to be a fucking pain in the ass to get them done before I go to sleep. So I try to do my stuff as early as I can in the morning, which doesn't mean early since I don't wake up in the morning. You know, I'm up until 2 every morning. You know, so I don't wake up until 10 earliest if I have anything to say about it. So you know, the thing is that my day and my life is not just about doing practices. It's not about chanting only. All these things I do are really to try to be in the room with my guru, to be in the presence of that love all the time. If I'm talking to somebody, I'm trying to pay attention to that person. I'm trying to see, to really be in the situation, not just like, yeah. You know, it's all part of your practice. It's not just one thing or another, or when you sit down like this, you know, that's not enough.
So your practice is actually living it, your practice is actually living, being in that presence.
Yeah, because we do these practices not for the sake of just sitting on our asses and getting hemorrhoids. We do these practices to become good human beings, and become open and caring and strong, and that's what they're supposed to do. That's what these practices are supposed to. That's how they're supposed to manifest in the world.
Speaking of that, because when I a lot of the time, and I find there's people who are like, wait, I have to go and do and meditation is very, very important to me also. But you know, I have to do my meditation. But there's certain practices I think that start to take over in people's lives that they kind of not missing out on life, but not actually living life.
On one hand, good if somebody knows what they need. Who's to judge? On another hand, you might get the sense that this person is doing that out of fear, or out of that they're too fragile, and they kind of keep backing off from things, and we have to. But you know, people do the best they can.
Yeah.
And hopefully, the practice itself will give their heart some strength so they can overcome their fear. But you know, mostly everybody just wants to go the easiest way and not really face the difficult stuff. And we'll take the easiest way out every time. But as Buddha pointed out, that won't last, because sooner or later you hit that suffering, and you've got to find a way to deal with that issue of dissatisfaction in life. And no matter where you go, what practices you do, you can meditate. You could put yourself in a trance that lasts 1,000 years, and come back and be the same asshole you were when you went into it. You can. People do. Yogis do that. Just because you brought the mind to one point doesn't guarantee that any of your karmas have been destroyed, or any of your tendencies, your vasanas, have been purified, or anything in any way. It doesn't guarantee. But through the wrong teaching, misunderstanding the teaching, people take the easy way out. Yeah, I'm gonna go. Okay, go. There was a story about this Tibetan Lama who went to Burma or some Cambodia or something, where now the Theravadins are down in that area, and the Vajrayana is the Buddhist practice in Tibet. Different practices, same basic roots. So he was going around to the different monasteries, and he got to this one monastery, and the disciples said, "Oh, let us show you our guru." So they walked out, and there was this stupa, a cement pillar, big, like 10 feet wide and 20 feet tall. And the Lama said, "What? What?" He said, "No, our guru's in there." "Really?" "Yeah, he went into samadhi, and after a couple of months, he didn't come out, so we buried him. We closed him up." And the Lama said, "Oh, that's too bad." And the disciples were shocked. "What do you mean? What do you mean?" It's he learned how to meditate, but he didn't learn how to live.
Yeah.
You see, it's not. We in the West are really very much babies at all this. We get a hold of a little bit of something that's written in a book, and we think we're hot shit. But there's a lot of subtleties to this. And if you're using these practices to avoid living and avoid your own stuff, you're not helping yourself. But everybody's doing the best they can. Let them do it, and hopefully their own hearts will lead them into the right the situation for them.
So I know that you have quite a relationship with Hanuman. Could you speak a little bit about that relationship with that energy?
Well, my guru, Neem Karoli Baba, was considered to be an emanation or an avatar or an incarnation of Hanuman. Hanuman is considered to be the perfect servant of God, of Ram. So, of course, in the stories, in the Ramayana, that takes a particular shape, but it's also an internal story. Hanuman is that, you know the story of the Ramayana where Ram's wife is stolen by the demon with 10 heads, which represents the 5 senses and their objects, and Ram is like the Paramatman, the supreme soul. Sita, his wife, is considered to be the Atman, the Jivatman, the reflection of that soul within us, the individual, so-called individual soul. And Hanuman is that flow of grace that connects the two of them. So
that's your lineage, and
that's
very
my lineage.
Descriptive of the work that you do, really.
I guess so.
So let me move on a little bit. Like living in this, for me personally, in building awareness of these concepts and ideas and teachings and learnings and so on, is so we can go and bring that to life. We can bring it into our being,
Yeah.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
So what is your advice on just like living in this world? So, having that strong connection, but actually being fully present here. Like you said, you don't just chant all day at home and do nothing else. You need to be places, you need to get stuff done, you offer something to the world, you get it grounded here.
First of all, I don't resist. This is what has to happen, I go. I don't want to be anywhere else, really. I'd rather, it's not like I want to stay home, but I have to travel. I do what comes up in my life to do. And why is that? Because I take that as my guru's, actually, this is what he wants. He's created all this Leela for my sake, so I can free myself from all this stuff. And so I surrender to that as best as I can and not fight it. I bitch and moan every once in a while, and mope around, but for the most part, I'm getting better at just going ahead and doing. The idea is to try to be everywhere you are, as completely as you can. And not, I'm not talking to you wishing I was somewhere else. Or, we're here, so this is it. This is not a mistake. We're not supposed to be somewhere else doing something else. If we were, we would be. So in order to be here as present as we can be, in order to do that, you have to, if you need a philosophical overlay for it, you said, then I just take it as my guru's offering to me. This is his prasad. This is this moment. And then the next moment, and the next moment.
So it kind of just goes right back around to what you were saying earlier on. It's just knowing yourself inside, who you really are, and surrendering to that.
Yeah,
Be
exactly.
fair to say, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because that's where it all is.
Now, there's a lot of dualities that play in this physical realm. It's not just about I'm present for everything I'm doing, in the sense that there's stuff going on that as a humanity we do need to address in some way or another, and it may look different for different people. Our service that we offer may be different, but what are your words on like living in this world that does have dark stuff still going on in it?
Well, first of all, if you want to alleviate suffering in the world, you can't be angry, because that anger is going to create more suffering.
Yeah.
It's like John Lennon used to say all the right things, but there was an underlying anger in him, emotional stuff that had never been processed, and so he didn't create peace. No one person can create peace. You do the best you can with what's given to you. I have connections with people all around the world just because I travel around. Last summer I sang in Kiev, and my friends were great. They were so excited that Kiev was that the Ukraine was kind of turning towards the West and more things were going to be happening. And then look, Russia just stepped on them, you know, and who knows if they have a country in a week. Like, I just Skyped with them last weekend. My friend had a little retreat and she wanted me to talk to the people, all right, you know? And I said, what do you say to these people? They're really living in this kind of place where they don't know what is going to happen. Terrible suffering. You just never know. That's why you have to take care of your own business as best you can. Every time, no matter what it is, where you are. And do some practice so that you're not completely reactive when the bullshit comes, when the difficult stuff comes. And, you know, Ram Dass always says, you know, love the soul, not the ego. So you have to try to, if you get caught in the drama, your reactions are going to also cause suffering. So you try to meet that wave and just go with it a little bit and not fight against it. If you fight against it, it gives it more energy and makes it worse. If you let it take you and rock you back and forth for a while, eventually it kind of slows down. You know, it's a big world, there's a lot of people in it, and there's a lot of suffering out there. It affects everybody. It affects everybody, even those of us who aren't right now immediately affected by it. It's out there. That anxiety surrounds us. It follows us to sleep at night. You know, it follows us all day long. Without finding some anchor in our own hearts, there's very little we're going to be able to do to help people. But you do whatever you can. On the other hand, you know, don't sit around thinking about how bad you are and what you blah, blah, blah. Get out there and do whatever you feel moved to do. But also recognize that you're just one person. I was driving along my car one day. I was delivering some CDs of mine to a radio station in New York. So I was driving along and I thought, oh, maybe I should listen to some of this. Everybody else does in their car. So I put me on and I'm singing like, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Somebody cut me off and almost like rode me off the road. And I flipped out and I pulled out and I pulled up, you know, and I was going to kill this person, you know, and I was just looking, and I looked down and it was this little old lady. She was like she couldn't see over the steering wheel. Like she was like driving like this. And I went, oh. First of all, she wasn't aiming at me. That's one thing about anger. We think you're aimed at, and it even might look like that. It might be directed at us, but is it really us, or is it coming from their own view of us, right? So not only was it anger, she didn't even know it happened, you know? So I just laughed and thought, well, at least I'm still an asshole, that's good. And I drove on, you know? Yeah. So it's like, that's how hard it is though. That's why you have to do some practice regularly to kind of get down into those knee-jerk reactions where we don't get a vote. Yeah. It's all nice to say, I'm not going to have anger, and then somebody gets you, and then, you know, you're gone, right? Yeah. So practice is what gives us the strength to let go enough not to have that first reaction. Once that button's been pushed,
yeah.
So you have to, so practice takes some of the wiring out of that button, so it's not such a charge every time.
And that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
You laugh at it.
And the other side is that some people might get angry and then like really get depressed about it. Look at this, I fucked up again. You know, I can't believe I'm still like this. This is so horrible. I can't. And then spend like, you know, a month or two like doing that to themselves. So that's not it either. You got to let that go too. So yeah, that whole thing happened. I was stupid. Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it happens to all of us. And just with the, you know, you did say if it felt like it's directed, whether it's world wars, whether it's personal relationships, whether it's stuff happening in the office for people, you know, when stuff like this comes up, I would like for you to just talk a little bit about what forgiveness and that being in that loving space means for you. How does that?
Well, you know, like say you're in an office and some guy like just scowling at you day after day, and you go like, what is it? What did I do to this guy? Then you find out he's got brain cancer. And you realize you've been taking this personally for no reason. At that moment, you've forgiven yourself, you've forgiven that person. There's a certain cutting through that has to happen before you can really forgive. Otherwise, we just hide behind it, you know. You get like the Salvation Army or something. You go around saving everybody and forgiving everybody, and you really haven't forgiven yourself. So it's through seeing things clearly that all those things disappear, all those emotions disappear, all those reactions disappear. But you can only see things clearly when you've calmed the mind a little bit. And only we, each person can do that for ourselves. Nobody can do it for anybody else. And if we don't do it, it ain't gonna happen. So.
And one of the personal tools for me in calming my mind is to have chanting or kirtan on. It does energetically, I feel like it just brings you a different space. So different things for different people, but whether it's meditation, whether it's doing yoga, whether it's going and working out, but if you notice things that are bringing you to a more relaxed place in your mind, that's a good place to start to bring more of those practices into your life. It's not a cookie cutter
Definitely.
type of thing.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Sorry, no, do you have, I would like to just ask you,
No,
do you have
no.
anything else that you'd like to share with us before we...
Ram Ram.
Ram Ram.
Be happy. Take it easy.
Be happy. Thank you very, very
right.
much. And this is Anjula around with Conscious Life News. Thank you for watching. Thank you.
Good. Thank
Very
you.
much, very, very much appreciate you.
Thank you.
That was beautiful. Yeah.